New details tonight in the death of a paddleboarder at Crawford Pond in Union.
17-year-old suspect has now been charged with murder. Alyssa Thurlow has the latest.
Court documents obtained by WABI show 17-year-old Devin Young of Frankfort has been charged with murder in connection with the death of 48-year-old Sunshine Stewart. The Tennant Harbor woman was found dead on Crawford Pond on July 3rd. Young appeared in court virtually Friday morning, where he did not enter a plea. Court documents also reveal Young will turn 18 in September. We spoke with a law expert who details how this case could move forward.
Normally what the prosecutor would look for is how old is the person, the seriousness of the crime, the violence used in the perpetration of the crime, and whether or not they think that that person poses a threat to society as a whole.
The Maine Attorney General's office has brought a murder charge against 17-year-old Devin Young. Young appeared via video from Long Creek Youth Development Center for the arraignment at Knox County Superior Court in Rockland. State police arrested the teen on Wednesday night around 10:30 for Stewart's death, which was ruled a homicide. Police say her cause of death was strangulation and blunt force trauma. It's still unclear if Young will be charged as a juvenile or adult. We spoke with John Michaud, the director of legal studies at Hudson University, who says the implications are huge.
As someone under the age of 18, the Supreme Court has held you cannot be sentenced to life without benefit of parole. They can't have that sentence. The court decided that under the Eighth Amendment, cruel and unusual punishment. But you could be sentenced to 100 years. You wouldn't necessarily serve that much time, but the sentencing implications are much broader now.
Only 2 pages of the court documents were made publicly available and do not reveal additional information about Stewart's death. The judge has ordered to keep police affidavits sealed until a status conference in August.
The prosecution may not be ready to show their hand yet, and they have the time to hold on for a while. Obviously, you can't cause an undue delay in the process. The courts wouldn't allow that. But an amount of time to check on evidence or to check on statements, that would be considered okay.
Young's next court appearance has been scheduled for August 22nd. Michaud says that even though a suspect is in custody, it's important not to take the focus off the victim.
Oftentimes when we have a case like this, the suspect becomes the story. The suspect becomes the one everybody's interested in. Well, I didn't know the victim personally, but someone no longer exists. And I think somehow we should make sure we don't lose that in the static.
State police say the investigation into Stewart's death is ongoing. Anyone with information related to this case are encouraged to contact them at 624-7076 or by texting MESPTIP to 847-411. We'll also have that information on our website and mobile app. Reporting in studio, Alyssa Thurlow, WABI News.